Noodle time. Welcome back. It's just gonna be me, myself, and I tonight as the last minute change. Unfortunately, Mark had a thing going on, so fortunately, he'll be able to join us tonight. So this is going to be me right now. We have a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover, and it's just been a little weird week to say the least. We planned on recording a Dash Dispatch earlier this week, but unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties. That's why our release schedule has been all over the place. So we do apologize for that inconvenience. If you're looking for our Dash Dispatch for the week, of course, we're going to go ahead and fix that right away as soon as possible. Of course, OSG and I will keep you guys updated in our next episode or as soon as we get that sorted out for you guys. And for everyone that's joining live tonight right now on YouTube, first of all, thank you once again for tuning in live. We are 4 subs away from 300 subscribers, guys. So we do appreciate the subscription and every time you share the episode and all the episodes to every Dynamo and Dash fan you know, because it's been an interesting year to say the least for all three teams right now. So once again, guys, we do appreciate the support and understanding in this last minute change for the episode. But we gotta get things going, guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. We got a lot of Dynamo stuff to talk about, particularly the Minnesota United game the week this week and the week before. We also have the game against Seattle, which I don't want to talk about it, but we have to talk about it, unfortunately. So as always, for everyone that's joining live on YouTube, you're more than welcome to comment right now, and I might just have to read it. And you might be a topic for the episode, so keep an eye on that. And Rushan, we are not slacking, never, absolutely not. The show must go on always. And Jeff, yellow card for tardiness, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm not gonna get a second yellow, but we'll see about that accumulation. So, well, yeah, guys, gonna go ahead and get started to our latest game. That being the game against Minnesota United yesterday. We are recording this on Thursday night, the day following that. Our latest Dylan Walpers derby. Man, I was kind of nervous about this game. Minnesota is not joking around this season, as far as I've seen, and I feel like I've mentioned this in a few other episodes, especially last year. Like sometimes we play like solid games against Minnesota United, but historically, uh, especially when they had a previous head coach, they've been able to handle us very well, and they're coming off a big win against Inter Miami. So I was slightly worried, but then I saw that they were like making like massive changes around their roster that faced Inter Miami. So I felt like we had a chance, and especially the fact that I was more scared about the striker, that one being Bonkule Hogwane, and as well as Olowaseji. Those are names for the players that I was looking forward to Minnesota, because those are essentially dangerous, and just based on the highlights that I've seen prior to the game, those were the players that I was looking to not face, and they actually came off the bench. So uh, unfortunately for them, it was too late. But not to get ahead of spoilers or anything, but yeah, I felt like that's how I was feeling when I was heading towards this game. And our starting lineup, I was pleased to see Dwayne Holmes on bench. Even though he didn't play this game, I was very excited to see him on the bench. Looks like he's ready to go after going through that a leg injury, broken his leg back when he was with. Uh, I keep forgetting the name of his team, but I'll remember in just a second. Preston North End, Preston North End, and it's probably that's probably why we got him on a discount and all that. But I'm so happy to see him on the bench at least, and hopefully we get to see him soon. We're probably gonna see him very soon with the Open Cup coming up next week, and I don't know if we're gonna see him against Frisco this weekend. I doubt it, but I feel like it's gonna be plenty of opportunity to show up. Of course, the big one being the fact that Femi Awodesu was serving suspension for the, you could call it, red card against Seattle. That's a debate for later in the episode, so I'm not gonna get into it. But man, one of the biggest highlights of this game being Pablo Ortiz, just absolutely bossing the back line right there, and Felipe Andrade featured once again in MLS play. I like to say that, of course, one thing I forgot to mention just now was that Escobar was also suspended due to yellow card accumulation. So it was more of a fact that we had to rotate players around, and also the fact that Ben Olsen has to rotate players now because the month of May is just going to be absolutely miserable of a grind for the players. We're going to have like 8 games in a matter of the next 2 or 3 weeks, which is absolutely insane. Also, thanks to the Open Cup. So we have to rotate our players, play them as much as possible, rest them as much as possible, because this is going to be an absolute nightmare. And the one thing that's just keeping me worried all season long, especially now, this month in particular, is just going to be how are we going to deal with injuries, because that's the last thing we need right now. So knock on wood. I hope not. No, please, no more injuries. So, but yeah, fairly straightforward lineup outside of those replacements because obviously they were suspended. Jack McGlynn, I don't have any complaints. People like to hate on him, and even though he's been one of our best players to start the year, even though he's been in some he's been playing some games, I'll just say inconsistently. Like he may show up in some games, he may not in a few. But he's been very involved with the scoring opportunities or just scoring plays altogether, and also just holding his line. And I may be just a little bit biased after that goal against Phoenix Rising, but and the goals that he has scored already. But I like John McLean. I'm always gonna be supporting him no matter what. That that boy is just like incredible and doing his best to help the scene as much as he can. So I support him. And also another thing that I want to mention is that I was hoping I could see like Toyosi starting at this point. He hasn't started yet, and for the very few minutes I've seen him so far, I feel like he may not be ready to start yet. I feel like he's just like looking like he's just like roaming around the field, looking to press other players and all that. And yeah, I felt like he seems out of place. But then again, it's kind of natural because came, he just like showed up to the team. Obviously, we signed him a while ago, and he hasn't. He's only been in practice so much up until his visa got approved and all that, and he's been able to play or just be featured off the bench for the past couple of games. So he is getting some playing time. I don't feel like he could be starting anytime soon. Like maybe he gets more minutes against Austin in the Open Cup. We'll see about that. But yeah, that's those are one of the things I'm looking forward to the most, especially over the next few weeks or the next few games. I like to say, since it's Frisco, and then at Austin for the Open Cup. So we got that going, and I like to say for the game itself, I want to say that initially I was more, or initially before the game started, I was more worried about how Minnesota was just going to try to set up the counter, because that's one of the things that we've been struggling so far this year. We've been getting caught off of our line or just giving us some really bad opportunities for the other team to capitalize on. And the good news is I didn't see Minnesota as threatening. I was hoping to see the stats here, but in the first half in particular, I felt like Minnesota was just going to be able to create a lot more damage that it should, but I didn't see that at all, honestly. And that was the worst thing that I was expecting Minnesota to do, because they have some absolutely insane players that can just like stay up top and just break the line altogether. And thankfully that didn't happen. So it's just, for me, it gave me some ease, especially heading to this game. And overall, I was pleased with how they they performed defensively against Minnesota, especially just conceding one shot on goal, which is great. So shout out to the back line, shout out to Jonathan Bond for keeping it all together, and OSG in the chat asking for Mark. Well, you said it yourself. You got a red card. So, but yeah, it's unfortunate, but the show must go on. And yeah, we got to talk about the goals now because I was so excited to see Pablo Ortiz score his first goal with the Dynamo in his first few games now. Of course, it's a little bit more difficult for a defender to just score a goal. Granted, this was more of a corner kick sequence. He just happened to be at the right place at the right time. The ball just ended up in like right next to him, right in front of him, over his legs, with everyone just scrambling inside the box, and he was just able to beat all the Minnesota players with a big header to put the ball in the back of the net. So yeah, honestly, I was a big fan of that goal because man, Apollo Ortiz, I'm still very hype on him with how he's been able to perform. If he's our next Mikhail, it's still a long way to go to prove that, but I hope that's the case. That we're betting a lot on him right now, and maybe things turn out the way they should go. We can keep him, and he can keep developing, and I hope that's the case for us because we need all the defenders right now. Especially with Svechenko out for the foreseeable future, I feel like it's going to be pretty tough from here. So I was so happy with Ortiz getting that goal. And of course, the second goal from Felipe Andrade. Kind of similar because it was still off a corner kick and the ball was just like hopping around. And Felipe was just able to get the rebound and put the ball in the back of the net at the 77th minute. So absolutely incredible. And I was more concerned about the out of our attackers to not score. But then again, you win the game by scoring the most goals possible and creating those opportunities and defending like those opportunities against you as a unit, of course. So especially since like a lot of people have been hitting on Ponce lately because of the lack of scoring as a designated player, and look, it's understandable, but at the same time, we win as a team, we lose as a team. We have to grow together and find wins at by any means necessary at this stage of the season, especially with us just being still digging, well, just making our way to a playoff spot now. We have to win it by any means necessary, and honestly, this game, the last thing I wanted to say about it is just the fact that we look pretty solid. I was more afraid of Minnesota than anything because of everything going on with them and have a better position they look like compared to us, or at least how they started the year. And coming off that big win against Inter Miami, I felt like they had like a lot more confidence within them, and I was very pleased to see Houston not only get the clean sheet here, manage a pretty good performance defensively, and the 3 points at home, which has been like a tricky way to get points this year so far. I was happy with the performance overall. I was happy with how the team was just able to stick together and but also to make those type of adjustments. If there is a complaint I could say is something that we've been talking about for like almost every episode now is just like the substitutions. And of course, we always know that we are not the head coach. We just try to be fans that kind of have been watching this team for so long now that we understand our players and we try to figure out where they can succeed in whichever position they can play. But yeah, like like the substitutions themselves are still like coming in like somewhat late into the game. The earliest two just being Brooklyn Reyes and Seba Kowalczyk coming at the 72nd minute, which you still get significant time, like a little bit over 15 minutes, plus regular plus stoppage time, which is something. But I feel like we should be giving a chance for some of the younger players, maybe Dwayne Holmes, but then again, it might be a little bit more of a risk because we want to maintain momentum of the game, especially speaking in defensive terms. So it could have been a risk, or it could have been helpful for us, especially just to, like start resting players ahead of a big game against FC Dallas. So something to think about because the substitutions are still kind of late. Of course, stubborn Ben, like we like to say here, and yeah, this was a big win and a win that really we needed a lot more than a lot of teams in the league. Of course, we need all the wins right now. Rushan, bad Benny balls when the defenders are strikers, not Ponce or Linger. I mean, you could say that the striker is definitely not doing their job when they're not scoring, but then again, we as we try to get as many wins as possible, we have to find any way to get those types of results. And it will be nice to see Ponce score more. It will be nice that he could be provided more, but at the same time, it also comes down to him to bury those opportunities and how he's able to open up, or rather find those dangerous opportunities to like open up from close range or inside the box, and just able to finish that out. Because we've seen him a couple times finish those opportunities. He's definitely capable of doing that, but it's more of a question of if it's his own ability or how much is being provided, which I feel like it's just like a balance. I feel like responsibility falls between the team and himself. So he's gonna have to score more. I do agree with that because he's a designated player. He has to score like one because we're spending a lot of money on him, especially when it comes to payroll. So something to think about. And yeah, just heading into the next game against FC Dallas. But first, we got to talk about the game against Seattle. Unfortunately, uh, I wanna skip this chat, but yeah, I kind of mentioned the last little time that Seattle was just a team that has historically figured out how to play against us in most occasions. And look, I wasn't really expecting a red card here, but some people kind of were expecting it just because of the sheer amount of red cards we've gone against Seattle almost every year. And I do recall that red card against Seattle in league play last year. That was just like absolute bullcrap. That ended up costing Dynamo uh, a huge loss, which foreshadowing to this year, he kind of did that to us as well. And yeah, I was really just before the red card came in, of course, in the first half. It was just the fact that we let Seattle just like really score on that, and I noticed how on the right side or our left side, essentially Seattle's right side, they was just like able to just find those like opportunities wide open, and I was just under the impression that okay, Seattle's just gonna take advantage of the spaces on the flank, outpace us, and find those windows of opportunity to capitalize on and just like crowd the box to see what happens. And that's what happened. Wasowski was just able to essentially get a tap in here because I think it was Rockworth that they just got that was just able to run on the right flank and just able to cross the ball inside to Wasowski to score, which I thought was a bad goal to concede, especially in the first 22 minutes of the game. And I was just under the impression like, okay, this is gonna be another of one of those games against Seattle where we're gonna struggle to get in the box and do anything because of how well they pressure against us defensively and how they're just like able to break away from the defensive line just to set up counters and just set up easy easy shots with set pieces. So really disappointing, but I guess the good news you could say from this first half was just how Femi Awodesu was able to score his first professional goal. Well, his first goal with the Dynamo, and off a off a corner, like 12 minutes after, well, 10 minutes after conceding. So we were just able to equalize after the fact. So of course, set pieces, especially corner kicks, are not lately has not been our strongest, I like to say, asset, especially when it comes to finding those scoring opportunities. But we were just able to find it here in this good opportunity. Femi Valdez was just able to stay wide open and just capitalize on that for his first goal with the first team, and Jack McLean getting his fourth assist of the year. So, of course, Jack McLean just being a menace of in the corners and just providing a more assists than anybody else on the team so far. I believe so. And yeah, honestly, it really comes down to how the team was just able to stay on top up until the red card in the 38 minutes. And I had to watch the replay multiple times because in real time it just looks like absolutely ridiculous how the referee was just able to pull out the red card almost immediately. And I initially guess like, okay, what happened here? Did he like pull the player inside the box to deny goal scoring opportunity? Did he like promptly stepped on the player's ankles or hit him violently in his back or something happened? And yeah, he just took out his red card and got Femi Awodesu ejected like shortly after scoring his first goal with the first team, which is absolutely insane. And it kind of sucked for Femi because he was just crying on the broadcast. Everyone was able to see that, and I was like, "What is going on?" It had to be some sort of issue with denying a goal scoring opportunity if it was just like that severe. And they go to VAR, and it's literally I'm trying to see what the main issue is, and I'm just struggling to like find the red card. And if you even argue that it was like just like the last man or just denying a goal scoring opportunity, it wasn't really deliberate. And of course, that's really not an argument with like the referee you're asking, since it's obviously a lot of accidents can happen, but it's kind of tough to argue over like denying a goal scoring opportunity there because like it happens so fast, and Fabian was just like putting his hands on a natural position, and even a lot of Sounders fans, especially on the Dynamo subreddit, were just like, this record is absolutely ridiculous. And after the VR check was over, the referee just made the announcement on the speaker that essentially was just that the Femi essentially just denied a goal scoring opportunity. Initially, it was called a penalty kick, but it was just called a free kick instead outside the box, and the red card still stood. And of course, with that, we are back to 10 players against Seattle, which I was like, okay, this is the best thing Seattle could ask for because it's gonna go south for us very quickly if we are in the wrong situation, and we're at the wrong situation. So it's really bad, and absolutely ridiculous. Like we try not to complain a lot about pro referees because another day of the week, another match day with pro referees, we kind of got used to some really bad officiating over the years. And this is one of those red cards that really hurt us, not just in the scoreline eventually, but also the fact that it was very harsh, in my opinion. Not to say that because I'm a Dynamo fan, but rather like like the difference between like the Niagara scoring opportunity and that just being an accident was just like very slim, and it really came down to interpretation of the play, and the referee just happened to interpret that as kind of obvious that he was just trying to prevent the goal to or just preventing to get the goal in altogether, and it sucks. And also because the appeal for this week didn't work, so Femi I missed the game against Minnesota, so but he should be back available for the game against Frisco. It's just really disappointing because sometimes you kind of have to ask like if it's just like the referee's pride just to like stand their ground, and we still get this kinds of bad situations against us, especially against Seattle. I think it's like the seventh record against Seattle in the last 8 games. If I'm not mistaken. Probably the opposite. I don't like. It's absolutely ridiculous that it keeps happening to us against Seattle. And yeah, we will go to halftime 1-1. I guess you could say that's a positive, especially after going down to 10 players on the field up until Seattle get back into the second half with a goal in the first minute of second half, which is just like the setup itself. They were not on their toes again. Seattle just capitalizing on the opportunity and still piling up on that. At the 58th minute, scoring the third goal of the game. Seattle winning at 3-1, and the game was just very depressing because at that point it's kind of like, yeah, they're putting the game away. They don't have to do anything else. All that to sit over the next 30 minutes just to keep possession of the ball because Houston is going to struggle to win it back because Seattle just knows how to handle it very well. And the substitutions, they didn't really come up big outside of the one replacing Paulo Ortiz for Bassi. Of course, it's going to be difficult to try and contain things, especially against Seattle. And I felt like we could have done a much better performance, or at least hold our ground as much as possible. Well, yeah, after the third goal, I was just like under the impression that we were just like really unable to contain it at all whatsoever, and Seattle was just able to deploy their own game plan after the third goal, and it was like, just absolutely depressing. The fact that really nothing else after that happened, or like really nothing of substance happened, just really disappointing overall. And the thing that really like stuck on my mind was just the fact that that game was the season 20 celebration, or just like commemorating 20 seasons of the team in Houston, which is very sour. Or a lot of the old players that played for the team in 2006 were there watching the team and just looking how things turn out after almost 20 years. And of course, a lot of things happened since then. Club wise, the team has just been struggling for so long and still trying to rebuild and still, I want to say, trying to find their identity, but at the same time, with the amount of turnover we had this off season, it kind of feels like we're still trying to find who we are after two successful seasons back to back. 2 years ago, well, you could say 2023 and 2024, those were years that we definitely saw a lot of progress. And it puts into question how much progress we have to make now, especially with the big pieces that we have lost over the off season, and how far can we go to get back to winning ways, especially with how we've been able to make playoffs back to back, and it's a big question mark. And this year, granted, we haven't even reached the halfway point of the year yet. There's still a lot of season to go and a lot of games to play. So a lot can change. Of course, we still have another transfer window ahead, and and players have to return from injury, which could change things for good. But still remains to be seen. Of course, Pat Onsa has been very vocal on Soccer Matters as much as he can, and yeah, and also with the state of the Dynamo, not so long ago, just providing opportunities after the first window closed, and really altogether, it's just concerning with how the team was just performing overall to start the year, and I felt the same that it was just going to be a tough start for the Dynamo, especially with how fast the turnover was, the lack of time to cover those gaps in the starting lineup, and us just having to deal with those on top of the existing injuries that we have carrying from last year and some of the new signings. So it's it's bad altogether, and the team still has room to grow, and we still have to see them consistently put out performances that help this team in the long run this year. So something that has to be seen yet. We still have to see this team string those results consistently. Can they win games at home? Against Minnesota, it's been obvious that they can, but it kind of feels like in those big opportunities that they're able to get those 3 points, especially with the game against FC Dallas, against Inter Miami to start the year. It was just really, really bad to start the year like that, especially in the worst start of the worst start of the season in Dynamo history. So battle together, but not much we can do about the past, but move on. And as things stand right now, we after the loss against Seattle and the win against Minnesota United, we went up to 12th place, which you could call it progress, and we are 3 points away from the playoff spot, which the gap is not really bad either, but we cannot really afford to lose more games from now on. Of course, hindsight 2020. Of course, we cannot lose more games. Also speaking as a fan, so we gotta we gotta get those wins, man. We gotta get those 3 points as much as we can, and the big one this weekend just being against FC Dallas, who are not having a hot start to the season either. They're just above us by 3 points and an extra uh, with a game in hand. So you could say that we're in worse shape. Of course, it really depends on the schedule you're looking at the end of the day. But I feel like this is going to be one of those crazy games again, as any Texas Derby. And really, I don't know what to look forward to, honestly. I feel like we are going to rotate somewhat, but at the same time, we're going to try and keep the core on the field because we need to get a result out of this game on the road against a another hostile crowd against us. So honestly, it's gonna come down to a lot of factors. Defensively speaking, it's gonna take the perfect game. I feel like FC Dallas is based on the very few highs I've seen so far. It is gonna be unbearable to play against in the counter attack. So we just have to stay on our toes. I'm kind of tired of repeating myself every single time I have to preview a game, but teams keep doing that because it works against us. So we have to fix that. Hindsight 2020, of course. So it is what it is. And yeah, man, I don't know what else to expect from this game. On that, it's going to be insane. And we have to get the win, of course, because we're talking about Frisco, South Oklahoma, and we have to win all those games. And that's the game of the weekend. And we also have another game next Wednesday in the Open Cup in the round of 16, being against Austin FC. And It's gonna be another big game. Of course, we're talking about the Open Cup with a shot at going to the quarterfinals already. So, and we're one of the very few teams that can field the first team altogether. And this game against Austin FC is going to be a good opportunity to not only play some of our starters, but also roll out some of the bench players or those players that have to be featured. And unfortunately speaking, we'll have to see how we roll out for this one because those already have some injuries. And I was expecting some of the players to show up, especially Jesus Rodriguez. That was just really bad timing overall with the injury and all that. So yeah, I guess it's really interesting to see how to think. Uh, Interesting to think about how they're gonna roll out for this game. But I feel like we're gonna do a mixture of starters and non-starters, kind of like what we did against Phoenix Rising. So big win, big game to win, and I'm definitely gonna be there because it's in Austin. So I am absolutely looking forward to it because we barely get a lot of games here. Of course, we usually just get one game a year now, but now we get two, thanks to the Open Cup. So save the cup. I'm of course in favor of the Open Cup always, 100%, no matter what. And man, it's just gonna be incredible to watch. And oh, let me yeah, Diego Gonzalez. I was gonna mention Dago really quick. It's a big win. About the highlights, and our targets are being limited. They just need to change the tactics. Sorry if I came in late to the comments, Dago. And yeah, I meant to say Diego Gonzalez. Not sure why I said Jesus, but it's Diego or Sebastian. But yeah, it is Diego Gonzalez who just announced that he has been out for the season with an injury with those, which really sucks because it really I'm always in the Diego Gonzalez hype train no matter what, and he's a player that has to be featured with the first team as much as possible. And then we get the surprise that he's not available anymore for the rest of the year. So really sucks, but I just hope for the best for his recovery. And and yeah, I'm just looking forward to see him back on the field as much as possible because he deserves it. The first team shout. I'm gonna keep saying it like he deserves it. If you guys haven't watched those yet, I highly recommend you watch those, especially this week because they're also playing North Texas SC. You could call it FC Dallas too. They are playing on Sunday night. Texas Derby is going to be on Saturday night. The mini Texas Derby, you could call it, like against North Texas SC and Dynamo Dos. This is going to be at 7:30 the day after, so Sunday night. And I believe that game, if I'm not mistaken, it's on the MLSX Pro YouTube channel. If not, I'll correct myself and just update that on Twitter so you guys can keep an eye on that. We got two big games coming up from them, so it's gonna be an insane weekend. And of course, the Open Cup game coming up next week on Wednesday, which I'm gonna be there. OSG is gonna be there. A lot of Dynamo fans are gonna make the drive. It, of course, is still a work night because it's a Wednesday night, but if you guys can make it, I highly encourage you to do so. Just like a 2.5 hour drive if you take I-10 and 71, might be faster if you take uh, the other way around, around 290. But yeah. If you guys haven't checked it out, a game in Austin, I'll have recommend it because it's always a good time. So with that, I think that might be it for the episode. And oh yeah, I did forget the most important question, just to keep out the tradition with Mark not being available. Is Houston the worst team in MLS right now? And it's still a no. It's still a no for me. And of course, we do have new teams below us right now in the standings, but it's more so the fact that LA Galaxy is or not just LA Galaxy, but Montreal and Toronto, which is like absolutely horrible this year so far. But it's absolutely incredible that we are 13 games into the season and LA Galaxy have not won a single game yet. And they were pretty close on Wednesday night because I looked at the score initially and they were winning 2-0, and then Philadelphia Union just came back and won 3-2 at stoppage time, which is like, how can the defending champions just be like this? It's absolutely insane. I've never seen this before, and it really makes you think like how long until they can get their first win, and how can they recover from this? Like it has to be miserable for the players, after, especially after winning the league last year and having that big of a payroll. It's absolutely insane. So it's really crazy, honestly, how LA Galaxy is able to do that. Again, I have no sympathy for them. They've already taken enough from us, and they just won the league. So it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know. You guys haven't really done a lot in the offseason to transfer out players. You still have a good core, but it's just incredible how they haven't been able to win games so far. And we're like a quarter of the season in. So absolutely insane. But yeah, I just have to say that because Mark would probably just yell at me if I didn't. So, but yeah, we are not the worst team in MLS. Not enough for a while. If things keep going south, it might change. But as things stand, there are several teams that are in really bad shape compared to us. So, so yeah, the answer is no. So with that out of the way, that's gonna be it for the episode. I feel like I covered everything. If anyone in the chat wants to remind me of anything they want to talk about, but yeah, guys, as always, I would do appreciate the support. And like I said initially, if you are tuned into the live stream on YouTube right now, is this is our best way to watch the episodes because you can also catch the live stream. If you don't catch the live stream, you can watch the recording afterwards, and it's it's definitely the best way to watch the episodes faster because usually we have it on audio the next day. Most podcast platforms on Noodle time and like the morning after. So we highly encourage you to stay tuned to our YouTube channel, Foxtrot TV. Like and make sure you are subscribed because we're almost at 300 subscribers. I'm gonna refresh the channel real quick just to see where we're at right now. We're still at 4 subscribers away. So make sure to share this with your friends and make sure to ask them to subscribe because it definitely helps us a lot. Your support, your feedback goes a long way, especially with the algorithm and getting more people to tune into our content, which we definitely appreciate. And really, and the one thing I also wanted to say is that Goals TV is one of the best platforms to check out all the soccer content creators like us. If you haven't checked it out already, it's goals.tv. It's spelled with a Z towards the end. It's essentially like a YouTube version of soccer content creators. Uh, you're gonna see us and a lot of new people if you're interested in watching not just content creators around MLS but also World Soccer and other leagues around the world. So I recommend checking it out if you haven't already. But yeah, as always, our handles on social media at Dynamic Foxtrot. It's gonna be on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And also we have the Noodle Tiempo handle on X, so we try to keep you guys updated as much as possible. And one more shout out to Fox in the Box, our newsletter handled by Juan Pereira. He has been doing a good job with the release schedule every start of the week, and we are getting a lot of traffic there. So we do appreciate every time you read our articles, if you stay subscribed to your inbox, and also if you check our links on social media, which we definitely appreciate a lot. And just one more thing, we're still working on content for you guys. One of the being Dynamico, which has been really on a bit of a hiatus. And even though I tell you guys that it's still going, I'm still working on a few things in the background. So stay tuned to that. So guys, as always, before I head out of the way, I'm gonna give a big shout out to everyone in the chat: Rushan, Jeff, OSG, and Dago, for keeping the conversation going. We do appreciate you guys always. And one more thing, guys, make sure you are subscribed, because I am planning on doing a giveaway with something in my Dynamo history trunk. I have a big Dynamo trunk with like a lot of Dynamo collectibles, so just like old stuff that I'm going through right now and deciding what to give away as soon as we hit 300 subscribers. So make sure to share the channel as much as you can, and just so we can hit 300 subscribers and do the giveaway as soon as possible, because it's gonna be big. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for your support as always. And guys, you know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna keep saying it. We're gonna keep saying it every single day. Stay Noodle, y'all.